Hey everybody, Alex Terrace here, healthhacksreview.com. So, guess what this video is going to be about? PEMF. And this video is going to be long. However, if you're serious about looking into these devices, which stands for pulsed electromagnetic frequency, you realize they are very expensive, so that's why I will say stick with me in this video. If you don't want to know kind of more of the scam out there and what devices are legit, and you just want to talk to me and not really learn all the kind of details about what's true, what's not true, don't bother watching the video. Just find me on healthhacksreview.com. You can reach out to me and just say, hey, I got these conditions or health goals, or I'm a practitioner and what should I do? That's fine too. But what I'm about to expose in this video is the biggest scam, and rightfully so. It should be called a scam. You know, a lot of people like to use that hot word, scam. But really, it actually is. If you just stick with me here, you'll be pretty shocked as far as what most devices really are and what they're claiming to be. And this is something that is, you know, parroted, propped up, marketed by all kinds of individuals, health practitioners. You know, I find that even very knowledgeable health leaders who do amazing stuff for people and are extremely knowledgeable with health, and you know, we could name all kinds of different names. Many of them are also very misinformed. They just haven't done the research. If you just sit here and go through this video, for example, you'll already know enough. And maybe if you just Wikipedia'd a few of these terms, you will actually see through a lot of the deception. So the bottom line is this: there are a lot of studies out there on PEMF. It's well proven, it's very therapeutic, but 95 whatever percent, almost all the devices are not PEMF devices. That's right. All the ones that are claiming to say they're PEMF are actually, now look at the article here. The article that I grabbed is Frequency, Intensity, and Waveform. It's from a very well-known doctor's website who in the PEMF category is very well-respected, in quotation points. So I don't need to name his name. It starts with the doctor, and in PEMF he is very well-known as one who is championing the cause and spreading information about PEMF. So I respect and I appreciate that he has helped bring PEMF more into the mainstream consumer mind. I think that's great. It's really important opening that door. However, now it is also filled with absolute deceptions, and which I think to be the main point is selling devices, essentially, that are not what they really are, which I don't respect. So this is the name of the article, Frequency, Intensity, Waveform. It's actually not really the title, but it's a part of the website on one of the buttons you can go down to on articles. I'm not going to go on to his website. And I titled the name of this video, The Great Pulsed Electromagnetic Field versus Pulsed Magnetic Field Scam. So PEMF versus PMF. Most machines are PMF, not PEMF. I know, it's crazy. And remember, all the studies back in the day were PEMF studies. Period. Let's move into here. So at any point, you can stop the video, read the actual article, the original, which is in this color font, and then basically my commentaries are in red, and so you can pause this, and/or I'm just going to kind of read through it anyways. And by the way, in YouTube, if you go to that little gear box in the bottom right-hand corner, I don't know if you know this, but you can click on that and click on speed, and you can actually speed up the videos that you watch. Since my videos are so long-winded, you can speed me up to twice the speed, and then actually get through these things faster. Little tip, because some of these videos I don't plan on shortening. Sorry, folks. The information's just too good. So moving forward, I will unveil all the deception. So remember, this is coming from somebody who's considered an authority, or whatever that means, lead educator on PEMF. So you can imagine what everybody else is saying out there. That's not this guy, okay? Which is mostly what other people are saying is just parroting what he's saying and other people are saying, okay? And then they're trying to charge you a huge amount of money, thousands of dollars. So let's start with frequency, a basic concept. This is like going back to science class. So electromagnetic field frequency is measured in cycles per second, hertz, abbreviated hertz. We've all seen that. Frequency is tied to wavelength. Most PEMF systems use low frequencies and long wavelengths, 1 hertz to 10,000, and so although a few systems will produce frequencies higher than this. Extremely low frequency ELF magnetic fields are those with a frequency at or below 3,000 hertz. All right, so right here, right at the beginning, low frequencies that he says here and long wavelengths are actually the same thing, okay? So I think this is because he's fundamentally confused by what frequencies are that he's saying this. So I'm not sure, so it makes sense of why he's saying and, as if they're two separate things. So and, if you get over 10 hertz, it is no longer considered a long wavelength. So that's also very confusing here. So 1 hertz to 10,000, and right over 10 is no longer a long wavelength. So, I mean, this is just like a mistake in basic science. All right. So frequency is just that, a preference to how frequently per second a magnetic field cycles. So that's BS. I'll just call it as it is. A frequency is the number of peaks per second of a waveform. Okay, that's actually different, and you'll learn a little more why. The reason he's already saying this, a reference to how frequently per second a magnetic field cycles, the reason he's saying that, a magnetic field, is because he's already preparing the way. This is like, it's like a long sales script is basically how this article is, to try to get you to believe in PEMF, pulsed magnetic field. So right there, he's basically giving you the wrong definition of what even just the basic term of frequency is, that it's just pulsing magnetic field. If that were true, then yes, those PEMF devices out there, when they say the word frequency, that would be true. That would be actual frequency, but it's not true at all. That's not what frequency is. So this is a lie as far as defining frequency. Wow. Step 1, lie about defining frequency, the term, and then proceed to use frequency often when talking about PEMF devices. Anyway, so you can see why consumers get confused. And it took me, by the way, folks, a while to get my head around this, so don't feel lost. took me a long time. All right, so 1 cycle per second is 1 hertz, okay, but that's true, is low and slow, that's true. While 1,000 cycles per second, 1,000 hertz is much faster. Okay, I think we all could probably get that. The Earth and the body each produce a vast range of frequencies. It's true. Different cell types, organ systems, and pathologies all communicate in different ways, creating their own biological windows that create or respond to unique frequencies. This term about, that's generally what was found in a lot of the studies. And they're amazing studies. I mean, they're just so awesome, studying how cells are communicating. So there are a variety of frequencies. But at the same time, this statement is really vague. Nothing in the body, specifically nothing in the body, responds to a single unique frequency or is like frequency specific, okay? Like you can take out an isolated magical frequency and say, oh, this is the magical frequency for this. I've cracked the code. And then let's just use that special frequency and put it back in the body. It just doesn't work that way. When you look at just one cell, you'll have what's termed as a harmonic. Harmonics, really plural, composed of many frequencies at certain positive integer values that are equal. So in other words, go to Wikipedia once again, and then you'd say, what is harmonics? Okay, and whether you're reading it from a musical scale or a musical theory, that's fine. That'll help you understand it. Or just harmonics with electricity, harmonics in the body. So basically, I wish it was that simple that we can just say. First off, it's already it would be beyond the scope of researchers to actually say, oh, there's that magical frequency in there. That's the one that's wrong. Let's tweak that one. That's already beyond the scope of what's possible. There's millions of frequencies. That was the whole challenge with a lot of research in general. And then to say that you can just feed that one back, it's just ridiculous. So that's the problem. Again, you'll see certain devices out there that say, hey, we're using this frequency, this hertz, and this hertz, and this hertz. Like they've cracked the code. No. There's no code there that you can crack like that. Unless you're like, I don't know, what's a supercomputer or you're like God or something. I guess it would be possible, But anyways, so we also, then he says here, the 4 brainwave states, beta, alpha, theta, and delta, are well known and frequency specific. They are well known. You know, we've studied the brain for a long time. But again, if you really look at like alpha waves, for example, it's in harmonics. Okay, it's not like I'm now in the alpha hertz zone. I'm in like 8, and I'm just an 8. This doesn't work that way. There's so many frequencies, and that are also coming together in harmonics and it's too much to even describe. That then are yeah. So again, it's just a waveform. It's not that simple. We'll just move on. Brainwave entrainment is the practice of causing brainwaves to fall into step with an external stimulus. In meditation, the most common external stimulus used is sound. It's true, brainwave entrainment is really awesome stuff. Well studied, very cool. Check it out if you don't know about it. Has benefits, absolutely awesome stuff. However, the most effective stimulus is analog sound. Analog. Okay, so why am I saying that? Because we'll learn here in a moment that the brain is analog sound, okay? When we're getting those waveforms and we're measuring it and we're saying, hey, your brain's entrained right now with, according to our equipment, that's analog, okay? All those waveforms that are, again, in harmonics. But you will basically learn in a moment that there's also digital sound. And maybe I'll pop to my diagram and show you a representation right now. Okay, so check this out. Here's the original sound wave. Let's say you're doing brainwave entrainment through some sort of PEMF device or some sort of sound approach. Either way, the analogous or the analog, the replica of this original sound wave, let's say that's in your brain, okay, it's in your brain, and you're trying to feed back some sort of external whatever to try to create that or stimulate that or whatever. So that would be the first original exact kind of replica of that, let's just say, is the analog sound wave. Notice it looks the same, right? Okay. This visual is great. And then here's the digital. That's what a digital replica of it looks like. They're in phase. It's like off and on and off and on. That if you zoom out, it can be similar, but these are actually pulse rates. It's like a step away from this, basically. And this is not what you find in the body. This is not found. Okay? That's not how your body works. If you're an artificial intelligent super cyborg robot, which I believe we will probably have in the very near future, then this is how they're, you probably find this in their body, lots of it, okay? So, it's a great visual you can immediately see. So most PEMF, remember I didn't say PEMF, most PEMF devices out there, which is most of what's out there, is this, okay? It's not this. What is how your body is naturally producing these. Back to the article. All right, so here, check this out. But a great deal of research exists for use of magnetic field frequencies to achieve the same brainwave entrainment. And really, that's not exactly true. There's about 10 times more research that magnetic field frequencies, cell phones, Wi-Fi, close proximity to power stations, high-tension power lines, cell phone towers are more detrimental to brainwave entrainment and detrimental to the overall body. Way more research around that. And again, part of it is because those things, again, are functioning, if you remember the visual wave again, are functioning those digital waves. And, I mean, that's part of it anyways. I'm just trying to make it easier for you to understand anyways. This is all very complicated science. Okay, so providing the brain with a PEMF signal, providing the brain with a PEMF signal within the beta range, 13 to 25, for instance, will likely cause a greater portion of the brain to synchronize with the frequency, thus having an overall alerting effect for the body. So my comments, providing the brain with a PEMF signal. So remember, in his example, what he's really referencing is a pulsed magnetic signal, not a pulsed electromagnetic signal. So remember, your brain is and the rest of your body, is when we read what those signals are with different ways of measuring it, it's electromagnetic. Electromagnetic. Electrical and magnetic. Okay, I'm trying to hammer this home because this deception is so crazy all over the place. Okay, so that's really what he's referring to. Okay? He's referring to not electromagnetic, but magnetic signals, magnetic pulses. So a strong enough frequency, so when they're talking about here that these pulsed magnetic fields can cause a change in the body or the brain to synchronize with the frequency, sure. I mean, it's real science experiments that actually showed this, but is it a good thing, right? So a strong enough frequency will always change or alter natural harmonics, natural analog electromagnetic harmonics, okay? How does forcing, so here's the question to consider here, how does forcing an alteration from a natural signal to an unnatural digital pulsed magnetic field signal provide any benefits? And what are the long-term effects? These are all gray areas, okay? Nobody knows. Moving on. It's like, it's just like the problem with, I don't know, anything in mainstream medicine. Just because you can produce a change, I mean, you know, like, just because you can produce a change, is that necessarily a good thing? And in the eyes of the studies, if they're looking, and if they come up with a theory like, we would like to produce this kind of change, this is our goal, and then they produce that change, they're happy with the results. It's like, oh, this is great. You know, we actually got this to change this way. You know, our hypothesis was correct. This is good. Let's try to replicate these results. You see how now suddenly it's a good thing. Well, it is good if, I guess, you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish in terms of the results, but, you know, does that stimulus of the system or the organism, was that really a good thing? That's a whole other can of worms, where that would go way beyond the scope of those studies, and would be just too expensive, and I don't even know if you could probably study it, but it would be a fortune. It would take a long time. But anyway, so frequencies applied to the body away from the brain can still create brainwave entrainment as long as they are within the frequency spectra of the brainwave states. How well they entrain will depend on the receptivity of that particular body as well as the intensity of the signal. So my answer to that is the same above again. Still those questions about what is unnatural, inducing a stimulus, is that a good thing? While some studies point to the use of specific frequencies to help in the treatment of certain conditions, benefits may well happen across a much wider spectrum of frequencies. So that's basically probably the most reasonable statement that he makes. And then so he says, in some cases, it is preferable to present the body with a wide range of frequencies. And that's actually, it's in all cases. So here it's so subtle. He's already setting you up for why he thinks you should believe that there's some value in these pulsed magnetic devices, that are just these selected digital frequencies, just a few, that they pre-select just specific ones versus the broad spectrum. So he's already trying to say, in some cases, so hey, in some cases, maybe you should buy this device. You know what I mean? Over here. It's really, no. The widest or wider spectrum of frequencies, which is really the full harmonics of the body. If you can replicate that, that's the most beneficial. But it's just that almost all the devices don't do that, which is all the devices he's selling. And that most people sell. So anyways, it is preferable to present the body with a wide range of frequencies as possible so that it may pick and choose which it will accept and which it will ignore. So I said, how can he possibly know if the body has been offered the range of frequencies it needs? So it's like, and that's the question here. When you talk to these other PEMF companies, and they're like, well, we have these range of frequencies and whatever, and we have more of a range than this guy over here, or this company. How would you possibly know that that range is going to provide more of what the body needs? Just ask. They don't know either. Anyways, and then the other additional point here is for the additional frequencies to be compatible with the human system, they have to be read out to at least 5 decimal places. So this is a big point, folks. So take a breath. I know I've been talking forever. So check this out. This is real biology here. The frequencies of atoms, remember you're made of atoms, are read or measured between 5 to 8 decimal places to get an actual, so right there, let's just stop for a second. Look at most of the devices on the websites where they're advertising these PEMFs, is what they are. And they'll say, oh, we have this frequencies, these frequencies, whatever. Now, look at the decimal places. Do they not all say, like, it doesn't matter what they say, 14 point whatever, 14.5, 13 point, this. It's always point whatever, 1 decimal place. Okay, this does not exist in nature. Period. It's like, you could just move on from that. It's like, what is this thing? You know what I mean? Like, what are they trying to sell me here? It doesn't make any sense. Any cell, or just an atom, just one atom, 5 to 8 decimal places. It's like a signature. It's energetic signature. It's unique signature, okay, that makes it like hydrogen, or makes it like whatever, okay? So, and then imagine if it combined like hydrogen and oxygen and a few other things, and that was interacting with other molecules. We're talking about like so many frequencies right now in a vast harmonic. It's mind-boggling. And then they would just want to boil this down and be like, oh, well, that's, it's just, all you need is this, 14.3, 7.8. It doesn't exist in nature. So whatever they've created is not natural. Yeah, I think you get that point. So it really needs to go out to that point. So in other words, could you make a post-magnetic generator digitally from, like these guys are purporting to claim, right, and actually read out to 5.8 decimal places? A frequency generator that could do that and provide harmonics, it would be at least $50,000. And then you'd have to tack on extra money for the processor, the controller, the power supply. It would be crazy expensive. And even if you did that, that would only put out 1 frequency signal at a time, rather than a harmonic of frequency signals, what's in the body. So it's just not even, it's not possible. It's possible, but it would be, I don't know how much it would be. $1 million, millions, I don't know. But so it doesn't really, nobody's going to be selling that or making it for that matter. So because all the frequencies present in therapeutic PEMF devices are non-ionizing, they do not cause the body any harm. So it's kind of referring to all the devices that he deals with. So none of the units he's promoting are actual PEMF units, so the statement is just, it doesn't mean anything. Moving on. Intensity is another popular term they talk about in the PEMF field. Magnetic field intensity, or flux density, is most basically a measurement of the strength of a magnetic field. The intensity of a magnetic field is responsible for how much charge is induced in the stimulated tissues. Oh, man. Yeah, like every device talks about this. So, oh, God. Yeah, it's just totally made up. It's completely wrong. There's no science there whatsoever. Not true. Moving on. I don't even know. It would be too much to even break that down. Okay, and just remember that with the statement is that your cells and everything, they're electromagnetic, okay? So not what's being talked about here. And that's not what charges up cells. It's an electromagnetic process. The reason this statement is being phrased this way, okay, the intensity of a magnetic field, how much it can charge, because this is exactly the way they pitch these devices to sell them on how they're healing you or benefiting your cells, they're charging it up. People can kind of understand that, like, oh, I'm like a battery and I can get charged up. And it's like, well, yes, but when you actually look up cell voltage and zeta potential and how your cells are actually like batteries, electromagnetic and all that kind of stuff, have an electromagnetic field. And there is a lot of research on that, and there's some good books if you want recommendations. That brings us to the whole point that you can't just pulse a magnetic field and charge that up. That's not the way it works. You need an electromagnetic field, okay? It's just being phrased this way to sell, once again, pulsed magnetic frequency devices, okay? That pulse magnetic fields, not pulsed electromagnetic fields. Okay, for therapeutic purposes, pulsed electromagnetic fields, okay, so now he's throwing this term out here as if he represents this, but none of the equipment he promotes puts out a pulsed electromagnetic field. Gosh, I'm getting tired over here. I don't know how you guys are doing at home. Moving on. Actually, I will comment on this. Are measured commonly, these devices, in Gauss for higher intensity systems. I mean, you can also measure lower intensity systems with Gauss, whatever, or microtesla. Okay, but generally microtesla is the term most appropriate for measuring pulsed electromagnetic field. What is actually you'll find is some of these devices, most of them just have a Gauss level. They'll say, oh, it's 200 Gauss or it's 2000 Gauss, like this is some impressive thing. You want to get the most Gauss possible. Well, really, Gauss is an appropriate measurement with a magnometer for a magnetic field. So it is appropriate for measuring a magnetic field or the pulse of a magnetic field. So right there, when you see a device and they're just saying, hey, we got this amount of Gauss on it, as their specification, right there they're telling you it's not a pulsed electromagnetic field device. It's a pulsed magnetic field device. It's putting out a magnetic field. So by their very own specifications, they're proving what they're not and what they are. Anyways. You can read this next paragraph right here and pause it. My answer is the same, once again, and of what I just explained. A PEMF will pass through the body, whether it is of high or low intensity. This one is talked about all the time with these devices. The difference is the amount of charge the field will stimulate in your tissues as it passes through the body. The magnetic fields produced by the body itself are well under 1/1000th of a Gauss. So let's just back up. The body does not produce magnetic fields. It does, however, produce electromagnetic fields. Okay? Maybe you folks have heard about how the heart produces a electromagnetic field. It's true. I mean, even your clueless doctor, sorry if there's any doctors who are not clueless listening, but we'll actually know that, that the heart is, it pulses, it beats, and it puts out a little bit of an electromagnetic field. Okay, but the point is, it's not putting out a magnetic field. Okay, so this statement, about the magnetic fields produced in the body, it's like, he's again trying to confuse you, because then you're like, oh yes, the body is producing magnetic fields. That is why I would like these devices so much that are out there, because they also put out magnetic fields. I mean, see, your own logic, it will work against you here, because he's actually misinforming you. So if that were true, then I guess theoretically these PEMF devices, just pulsed magnetic fields, right, what they maybe would be therapeutic, but that's really not how the body works. So anyways, so it does, however, produce so the magnetic fields produced by the body itself are well under 1/1000th of a Gauss. I believe he says that because the body has never been charged up. You can't charge up a body, so it's probably a relatively true statement. Under 1/1000th, You just can't measure it and hasn't been measured. Human biology is affected by and responds to a vast range of magnetic field intensities. This is true or correct for real PEMF devices that were used in decades past, back in the day, and currently one device that I know about on the market. I mean, I think there's actually a second as well, but one that's easier to access and buy. Anyways, all right, so subtle magnetic fields like those below 1 Gauss still induce a local charge in the treated tissues, but the charge is much less dramatic than it would be with a higher intensity field. Totally made up. This is just to sell machines. Again, you'll see this pitch with high Gauss, high magnetic pulsing devices. Sometimes more intensity can be overwhelming to the basic processes of the body. I'm sure it can be overwhelming, particularly if the patient is extremely toxic or sensitive to external magnetic fields, medications, or other therapeutic approaches. Subjecting the body to an intense magnetic field can be quite detrimental. So, I mean, I would agree, but it has nothing to do. I mean, if somebody's toxic, they have more heavy metals in their system. They have neuropathy issues. Anybody, high magnetic field pulses, which are totally unnatural, could present a problem. Yeah, and I've seen that specifically, to not name any devices, where people have had some health problems. Extremely low intensity magnetic fields are akin to a whisper in the body and tend to require more specific frequencies or a wide range of frequencies. I mean, it sounds so believable. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, wow, yeah, it's great. You know, that's the magic of marketing in this field, where you can make millions of dollars. Yeah, it's just totally made up. I mean, if you don't believe me, just take any one of these statements and ask these companies to back that up. And probably they'll probably give you in response a further technobabble explanation, and then all you have to do is then take a segment of that response and say, "Oh, that's great. Can you also prove that?" And and if they still respond back to you, eventually you'll reach a point where the only way they can explain their previous statements is with making up further explanations that are also unproven. It's like the fractal nature of bullshit. I should coin that. But really, there's never any real science, of how the body actually works. I mean, in other words, studies about how the body works, biophysics. There's never any reference to that whatsoever. Scrolling down. Natural cellular communication takes place at extremely low intensity levels, and therefore it only takes a small level of increased energy to help support and improve some basic cellular functions. Overall, extremely low intensity systems are often used by people who are in relatively good health and looking for simple health maintenance. They are also appropriate to people who suffer from hypersensitivities, either to medications and environmental pollutions or EMFs. So, more technobabble, totally made up. However, if you thought that sounded cool and you're like, I want that, yeah, that sounds good. There's good news, folks. Using a true PEMF and bringing the body's energy levels up on a cellular level, and or what that process is amplifying the frequency harmonics of all the cells, sensitivities may actually diminish or disappear. Could be, you could see neuropathies as an example of maybe sensitivities to toxins, electro-EMF sensitivities even to these disharmonic EMFs flying around. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of stuff. So that actually can happen with PEMF. Can happen with magnetic pulsing, okay? So yeah, that's the good news is it is possible. All right, so it's like, well, how do I know that's possible with PEMF very simple. Not only were there studies, of course, but if you look at how the body actually works, so biophysics, and this has been known a long time, the body has self-regulatory processes, both on a cell level, on a total immune system level, and that is exactly how cells and immune systems self-regulate. It does it through PEMF. So you may not realize that PEMF is not this thing that exists in external machines and devices. Your own body works this way, okay? And will actually, your body, to keep it super simple, it's like your immune system, through all the different organs, the brain and the heart and all kinds of things, it's amazing how it all works together, is capable of like endogenous internal PEMF therapy. Okay, that's like a really maybe simple, oversimplified way to explain all this. So, could you supplement that? Could you enhance what your body's already doing with something that's compatible and works the same way, same waveforms? Yes, you can. That's the magic of real PEMF, not PMF. All right, stronger magnetic fields like those above 5 Gauss induce a greater charge in treated tissues. Totally made up. Yeah, okay, so this is a good one. Read here. There are pathologies and conditions in the body which simply will not budge with anything less than a high-intensity magnetic field. Primarily musculoskeletal conditions, and many chronic conditions will require higher intensity fields to achieve measurable results in a reasonable period of time. They sell chiropractors on this all the time. All the time. To sell $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 machines. Sorry, chiropractor people, but they sell all kinds of people on this, not just chiropractors. But anyways, it just applies because they're treating musculoskeletal conditions all the time, right? Higher intensity magnetic fields are also more appropriate for those with larger body masses as well, athletes, biohackers, and the like. Classic pitch for a lot of these machines that are super expensive and high Gauss, that are really strong. And again, classic pitch for chiropractors and anybody that works with musculoskeletal conditions. So it's totally made up, the entire paragraph, used by a lot of companies to sell their equipment. So the equipment he's referencing in this statement are out there, and they're high-intensity electrical induction field devices. So it's actually a combination. They're either the high magnetic pulse devices that get to such a high level, it causes an induction in the body, and or like direct current stimulation. So successes with these devices is questionable at best. A lot of people usually walk away sore and kind of injured, and or there's really no studies on them. I've seen injuries from them. And really where they came about, by the way, is what companies that stepped away from true PEMF and just got into these magnetic pulse rates, basically, and amped up the Gauss and the power of it. And they just kind of went off into experimental land. I don't know. That's the way I could sum it all up. Yeah. And just, anyways. And the reason he is talking about why this is more appropriate for athletes and biohackers is that these individuals prefer muscular stimulation as opposed to sitting and laying on a pad feeling nothing. So, yeah, like this whole pitch is really used for that segment, for athletes and health practitioners that treat people like that, or who are very health conscious and fitness oriented. And when you feel it working, your muscles twitching and or like whatever, some kind of intense energy, like psychologically, placebo, you really want to believe it's doing something versus like laying on something and like nothing, feels like nothing's happening. It's like, okay, well, did you turn on the device? I don't know if it's even working. Like that's really how PEMF is versus these other devices that he's referring to. So actually, if anything, I think that people actually get better. I theorize actually these intense devices he's talking about may actually somehow stimulate endorphins, if anything, possibly. And some people feel like a high from that, maybe, just like intense exercise, which essentially is breaking down your whole body. That's what exercise is. It's just a tremendous amount of stress. Of course, it's how your body adapts to that, right? Anyways. So, higher intensity magnetic fields are cousins with electrical stimulation, which has long been used therapeutically for everything from a fracture healing to treatment of resistant depression, because they induce a measurable charge in the treated tissues. They can affect great and rapid changes in the body. However, typically, PEMFs act more deeply in the body. So, higher intensity magnetic fields are cousins with electrical stimulation. So, and again, he's talking about direct current stimulation. They put the electrodes on you. There's other devices out there. TENS unit, you probably have heard of one of those. So I say that they're cousins in much the same way as a red delicious apple is a close cousin to the 1972 Ford pickup truck. There's no link between the two. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? The reason he's making that statement, it's mastery with sales. It truly is. Sales and marketing with deceptive tactics. The reason he's saying that is that in your mind, you'll draw that connection between, oh yeah, well, your muscles are twitching, high current devices, yeah, they're TENS things. I'm familiar with those devices. He's just trying to get you a reference point for something you might have even heard of, just that's out there, that's been around since the 70s or something, and then likening it to magnetic fields. So that he can kind of cross you over into the idea of like, oh yeah, these high intensity devices out there pulsing in magnetic fields, it's like that. Yeah, it'll give you similar effects. Oh, okay, well maybe I should buy one of these devices because it's better than an electrical current stimulation device or a stim device. It's just it's a setup for sales, is what this is. That's all it is. Higher intensity magnetic fields are not harmful. Some of the FDA-approved electromagnetic field systems, like NeuroStar, reach extremely high intensities and are directed at the head. This indicates that there is a large degree of acceptance through the U.S. federal approval system of their usefulness and safety. This is, I'm going to do another video on this, but it's a common deception in the industry to confuse people with what FDA approval, FDA registering, FDA clearance means. So check it out. NeuroStar, which he references here, which is FDA registered. Now, it's not the same thing as cleared, okay? And it's also not approved. It's registered, okay? So what is approved, by the way? I'm sorry, what registering means, the point of registering is the FDA requires any device in the health field that is made outside the United States to be registered. It's a legal thing. If you try to sell something that's not registered in the health field, they find out, you're in big trouble. Okay, so it's just something legally you have to do for business. It has nothing to do with health benefits or efficacy or anything. Okay, so but you'll see it used that way as another sales tactic by many companies. FDA clearance is something different. You will see with some medical devices out there, which I do sell. I sell all kinds of stuff. And there are some devices out there that are good for you and they are cleared, and it's a pain in the ass. It takes you at least minimum a couple years to try to prove to the FDA through studies that your device is not just safe, but it can actually be used for specific conditions and give you actual proven results statistically for those specific conditions. So it takes a while to prove that efficacy, and the FDA is not easy to work with, and every year they get harder to work with, and if anything, they try to clamp down on things that really help people. So anyways, so I just divulged that. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. Maybe you didn't catch that. Okay, I just deleted a name there. So, so in this statement, we're not differentiating between classification. The NeuroStar, to its credit, does not claim to be an electromagnetic device. It states on the website to be a pulsed magnetic device, which is, again, the big distinction that we talked about. So you can already see right here in the example, okay, some of the FDA-approved electromagnetic field systems, like the NeuroStar. So again, trying to mix things up. This is not an electromagnetic field system. So it's like referencing, anyways, I think you get it. It's like, oh my God, I think I've lost all my patience from this video. I can't even explain that any further. Okay. We're almost done, believe it or not. I don't know how long this video has been going on for, but if you've watched it this far, I'll offer you a 50% discount on anything. No, I'm just kidding. It's not going to happen. But thank you for watching, and please spread all this information. A huge variety of waveforms exist in nature, in the body, and in PEMF devices. This is talking about waveform now, which is an important concept to understand. You should Wikipedia it then versus read his stuff. A huge variety of waveforms exist in nature and in the body, that's true, and in PEMF devices, true PEMF, that's true, in harmonics. The most common are sinus, sawtooth, and square. And they're also trapezoidal, rectangular, impulse, triangular, and many other different options. You'll see that talked about all over the place in this category, in this industry. So first off, there are no sawtooth or square waves present naturally in the human body. Only sinus waves. Okay? So that's kind of a big point, don't you think? Any waveform besides a sinus wave is created by digitally turning on and off signals or electrical power to magnetic coils. This is how most of the quote-unquote PEMF systems out there, which are really PMF, which are just basically pulse rates of magnetic coils, okay? They are capable of creating these sawtooth and square and trapezoidal and whatever, those types of things that you don't find in the body, that cells do not produce. So again, it's trying to mix up PEMF with PMF, okay? And then we can go back to my fancy diagram over here, and we'll see, this is a good example of like a square wave. Beep, ups and turns off, up, turns off, ups, turns off. And they like to, believe it or not, count these peaks in the amount of time in here and call it a frequency. Say, oh, it's this frequency. Yeah, that's not the same thing as frequency. Neither is that. That might look like frequency, but as you can see, zooming in there, right? That's not. It's this digital thing. That's frequency right there. Gosh, am I done? Am I done? Okay. So almost done. More referencing in here. Blah, 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 NASA. Not referencing electromagnetic field devices. They did do some research, by the way, but they did it with pulsed square waves and digital stuff, okay? Let's see. The main reason waveforms are important is because they either mimic, enhance, or counteract diminished processes in the body. Waveforms also tend to be tied to intensity. Square, trapezoidal waves tend to be used with higher intensities than sinus waves, for instance. It's just all a bunch of made-up stuff. Yeah, it's that's the big gray area, is actually these artificial other types of waves. Will they actually counteract processes in the body? So if it purportedly it gives you one specific benefit, is it having a counteractive effect on somewhere else? So I'm not going to sit here and say that NASA didn't do a ton of studies and that research had been furthered with square waves and things like that digitally, specifically on bone loss and some musculoskeletal conditions. And they did find they could speed up healing, tissue healing for some of those very specific parts of the body, musculoskeletally speaking. That is true. I think they were good studies. I think it worked. But those devices were designed, number one, to be used for a short space of time. They were also very low Gauss. They were just very low intensity, super, super low. Nothing like high induction, high power like a lot of devices are out there. So they're also extremely low. Again, the scope of therapeutic action was on like bone or on, mainly bone. It was just very narrow. It was on specifically on musculoskeletal conditions. I've gotten feedback from people that say, hey, it helped reduce some tissue swelling and inflammation, and it did speed up my healing here and there. And I do believe in that. I think it's possible, and you shouldn't spend more than $400 or $500 and use it for that specific issue, and then you're done, and it's like, okay, great. It was better than drugs. It was better than, whatever alternatives. I got some benefits. I sped up the healing. But just understand that narrow scope of action, and that, yes, potentially in that area of the body or wherever it travels in your nervous system, I suppose it could actually have some unnatural counter effect to something else. Who knows? That hasn't been studied. I theorize it's probably cool, it's probably fine to just use it for a few weeks or whatever, just to help speed up the healing of that one particular musculoskeletal condition. Probably fine, it's probably no big deal at a low intensity. But most of these devices, using almost the same technology of what I'm talking about, just decide to expand it out there to it'll just heal everything under the sun suddenly. And, it's this frequency, it's the magic, square wave of, and then the confusing frequency, and, it just all became this garbled mess of pseudoscience. And we've been over a lot of those claims. So, yeah, no, for those less expensive devices and for some sort of specific musculoskeletal condition, yeah, if you want to spend a few $100, I think that, and you have a good return period for that product, why not? You probably won't harm yourself. But if you're interested in, healing beyond that for anything else, I think you got to look at true PEMF, okay, with an analog sinus waves that are putting out true full spectrum harmonics. That is how the body works. That's how cells heal themselves. That's how the immune system heals itself. That's how your DNA works, okay? And that's my conclusion to that. This was probably one of my longer videos. I'm tired, but this was super important to go through because this touched on pretty much almost all the deception that you see in the PEMF category, of which what you will see on the internet, at a health expo, wherever you are, with most of these quote-unquote PEMF devices that are really PEMF devices, you will see a lot of these deceptive or misinformation that I've been over. And now you kind of know the truth about these devices. So PEMF can be very powerful. There is a device that I like out there a lot that really does actually create these full spectrum analog harmonics in the body, and I've seen amazing things with it. It is truly well studied science. Okay, for those who want to know the science, want to see that that it is a real thing, and for those of you who are not familiar with energy medicine, things that's far out there, again, it was pretty rigorously studied. And if you don't know how the body works on a biophysics level, if you understand enough of that, we've been over a little bit of that here, you can actually start to understand more about, oh yes, I see how it would be possible for a device that works the same to be compatible, to enhance at the cellular level what's happening there. But the issue is that mainstream medicine, the mainstream even health field, even nutrition, all these different things is, the real biophysics is not really discussed. It's not mainstream. It's not, so most people are not really understanding how the body is working. So when you get into it more, it seems very out there. Just understanding very simple things even, like why the sun helps you, why sun exposure helps you. That's actually a very advanced biophysics process and explanation. Why the electromagnetic field of the Earth coming from the core is essential for keeping DNA working right, circadian rhythms, for reproduction. That's really advanced stuff. Really advanced stuff. So but this all ties into that really the future of medicine is PEMF. It is these original devices and maybe a couple only that are really accessible anymore. And potentially where they go in the future, if they're researched more further, I do believe that it is the future of medicine, and it has capacities to, I truly feel in the near future, to regenerate anything in the body. I think that once more research goes in, and that's a continuation of ones in decades past, even many decades past, because some of the original ones were like 100 years ago, believe it or not. Once we return to that more, I believe we will see some incredible things, like, right out of Star Trek. I have no doubt about it. So thanks for watching this video. Thanks for hanging in there if you did make it to the end. And if you're still really confused and you just want to know what to get, just email me, live chat with me, call me on the phone, and say, hey, what about this device? What about this device? Or I have this condition, or I have this health goal. And I'll just provide you some unbiased guidance that is always going to be backed in science. And I would encourage you, if you're getting confusing information from other people out there, and just say, hey, can you back up that claim? And it should hopefully tie back to some sort of research, not just be reinforced with more unsubstantiated claims, which is what most companies and salespeople will do. Anyways, Alex Terrace, healthhacksreview.com. Please reach out anytime. Thanks for watching.